Disenchanting is usually amazing gold making at the start of an expansion. Some players make millions from this. Today we're covering everything: the setup, min-maxing that you won't have thought of, and what I think could work going into Midnight. Disenchanting tends to have great profit margins and is perfect for someone who doesn't want to actively farm, like mining and herbing, but is happy to sit pressing a button whilst watching Netflix on another monitor. Setup then, you need knowledge to do this. I won't cover this in detail as it's all in my basic enchanting profession setup video, but grab your profession treasures, grab your first time crafts, especially from the secret gleeful enchanting trainer in Silvermoon. Grab your weekly treasures, do the Darkmoon Fair, get knowledge stuff from Disenchanting, buy profession tomes from reputation vendors if you need to, all that good stuff. Profession skill is absolutely essential for a disenchanting character. This is because your skill determines the quality of your output. The higher your skill, the more rank 2 dust, shards or crystals you will get, and this has a huge effect on your profit margins. You really need to be disenchanting a capped profession skill character, or as close to possible if it's right at the start of the expansion. In addition to this, I think it's pretty mandatory to be a blood elf for disenchanting. So many players have so many enchanting characters, there's literally millions of blood elf enchanters around for you to compete with. The extra +5 enchanting profession skill works out to be quite a lot over the course of the expansion, so make sure you have it. For profession gear, profession stats actually don't have any effect on disenchanting at all. Getting a plus skill from having your profession gear upgraded as soon as possible is essential, but the rest doesn't matter. That being said, I imagine most players will probably double up and have their disenchanted character also be their gleaming shatter character as well. In that case, just stack resourcefulness. Knowledge spec wise is actually really simple for disenchanting. You need 30 points in disenchanting delegate, whatever you want to do. You need 30 points in dust deliverer if you want to disenchant uncommons into dust. You need 30 points into shard supplier if you want to disenchant rares into shards. You need 30 points in crystal collector if you want to disenchant epics into crystals. Therefore, the knowledge requirements are between 60 and 120 knowledge points depending on how much stuff you want to be able to disenchant. Okay, we're set up. Now what then? Before that, just a quick word about the Gold Making Community Discord. Lots of free Midnight Profession guides hosted on there. If you want to come and join us, link is in the description below. We can disenchant either uncommon greens for dust, rares for shards, or epics for crystals then. For Midnight, I think disenchanting uncommons for Ever-Singing Dust is going to suck, and there's a few reasons for this. Firstly, a lot of the uncommons you need to craft to disenchant are quite expensive. Now this isn't new, it was pretty much the same in the War Within I guess, maybe a little better, but it was still profitable because the dust prices were so high at the start of the last expansion. The reason the dust prices were so high was because we had no other way to get dust until they introduced Gleaming Shatter. Well, now we have Gleaming Shatter right from the start of Midnight, so dust prices are not going to be as crazy as they were at the start of War Within. We have a situation in by which it seems like it's going to cost a lot more to craft an uncommon than a rare, and we can just disenchant that rare and use Gleaming Shatter to get dust. With me looking at this before the expansion releases, that looks like the much more logical way that dust will be put into the economy. So rather than crafting and disenchanting uncommons, the best way will be to craft and disenchant rares and then Gleaming Shatter. So I feel like uncommon disenchanting is just going to really suck this expansion, and you are even invited to clip that if you want. Rare disenchanting of blues to make radiant shards I think is going to be well worthwhile. There are so many really cheap looking recipes. Dual crafting ones just need 5 ore and 1 stone. Engineering looks really cheap as well. It's just like this across the board pretty much. Just lots of options that look so much cheaper than the uncommon alternatives. Also, as part of disenchanting rares, you'll pick up some basic materials as a byproduct in addition to the radiant shards. You can get scales, leather, tranquility bloom herb, copper ore and bright linen. Not huge amounts, but it's a nice bonus. One of the ways in which a lot of people go wrong when they are crafting gear to disenchant is not having the profession set up properly that they are using to craft the gear with. This is important as it has a huge effect on the costs of what you craft, and therefore your profit margins is roughly about 10%. Now, depending on what profession you're crafting with will determine on what you need to do. I'm not going to cover every profession here, but it's not too complicated. Let's have a look at dual crafting now. So we decided we want to craft gleaming copper rings to disenchant. You stack resourcefulness, so that's a resourcefulness tool and a resourcefulness enchant. Knowledge point wise, you're looking for the one that gives huge bonuses to resourcefulness. In dual crafting, this is skilled savings. Other professions, it would be called something else, but it's just the general one that gives loads of bonuses to resourcefulness. Exactly what we need when we're just using this to craft gear to disenchant. If you get your resourcefulness profession tool, enchant, and this knowledge setup, then that's perfect. Depending on the profession, sometimes you can uber min-max this a bit more because there's little bits of resourcefulness elsewhere around the profession trees. In jewel crafting and alluring accessories and regal rings, we have a small amount of resourcefulness that we can pick up for when crafting rings. But just to stress this is super min-maxed. Once you have the correct tool, enchant and a basic resourcefulness node, then you're good to go. This is just more of a long-term thing. When it comes to the actual disenchanting, I personally prefer to use a use macro and just bind it to my spacebar. I get that a lot of others have other ways to do this. For example, I know some people on the Discord have used wireless mouses and been doing chores around the house while pressing the disenchant button. Others have a key bind on their foot pedal and have done it that way. Whatever is comfortable to you, just don't be silly and use an auto clicker or automate it in some way. It's stupid and so many people think they're going to get away with this and just get banned. We see it all the time on the Discord. If you don't want to click, then just don't do disenchanting. Disenchanting epics will also be huge in Midnight. Like in the War Within, it looks like the best way to get hold of crystals will be by disenchanting Dark Moon decks. Players get card drops, list them on the auction house, and you buy the cheapest cards to make decks, and then you disenchant these. We have 4 decks again. This time they're called Hunt, Void, Rot, and Blood decks. I don't think I've seen a situation when it was cheaper for you to buy the full Dark Moon deck from the auction house. This is another common mistake I see people doing. You need to add up the price of all 8 cards. You need to make a deck. Across the 4 decks, usually there will be certain decks that are much cheaper, like the tanking or healing ones, as the DPS ones have more demand for the deck to be used as a trinket. You can then buy the cards, put together a load of these decks, and disenchant away. Now the perk we get for disenchanting epics in this expansion is that we can get all 4 types of motes from doing this. Like with disenchanting rares, this is not a huge amount, but it does help make a little bit more gold. In Midnight, Blizzard not only introduced Gleaming Shatter from the start, so that's turning shards into dust, but we also have Dawn Shatter, turning Dawn crystals into shards. This could have an interesting effect on the disenchanting market as well. If you have followed all the advice I've given you so far in this video, then the biggest factor in determining how much gold you make from disenchanting will be knowing when it's good to do and when it's not. Now I have a calculator on the crafting sheet on my Patreon, but I frequently say you are more than capable of doing this yourself. Do some disenchanting, record the results each time, and each time you'll have a better idea of how much profit you could be making from this. Once the Gleaming Shatter video is released, I'll make that pop up in the top left for you, as that's quite related to all this and useful for you to know. If you found this video helpful, then please leave it a like.